In the archives of the United States Air Force's rich history in aviation safety, certain individuals have passed on to those who follow a safer sky to fly in, a safer front line to work on, and above all, an increased wartime capability through their efforts. Roger G. Crewse, United States Air Force Major retired, is one of these individuals. Over 3 decades, from 1954 to 1981, Roger Crewse's unwavering commitment to aviation safety and his innovative solutions left an indelible mark on the United States Air Force's safety program. The Coolstone stories are part of Roger's legacy, demonstrating his straightforward yet humorous approach to flight safety.
Hi, my name is Randy Crewse, and we are here today to talk about my father, Roger G. Crewse, and the humorous flying stories he wrote for the Air Defense Command. He started his Air Force career in 1942, where he flew C-47s in World War II, and then he flew the F-94 in the Korean conflict. He got started in the safety business when he was stationed in Minnesota in the mid-1950s. He was then transferred to Colorado Springs in 1958 as the first project officer for the F-106, the United States Air Force's premier fighter plane. It was also at that time that he became the first editor of the Interceptor Magazine. The Interceptor Magazine was the Air Defense Command's flight safety magazine for pilots. The first issue of the Interceptor Magazine was the birth of Coolstone. Coolstone was a fictional pilot, and many aspects were based on my father. In every one of these flying stories he wrote, Coolstone was the main character. And what is so amazing about these stories is that they are all true stories and they are all humorous. That is what drew all of the fighter pilots to these stories, and he became known worldwide for his Coolstone stories. And we are very fortunate to have Coolstone trademark and free to use it. My dad created the first and only forward-trending accident program for the Air Defense Command, and ultimately for the Air Force, that became the gold standard for Air Forces all over the world. His most noteworthy accomplishment came in solving the F-106 flat spin problem. The F-106 would get into a flat spin, and if the plane was below 10,000 feet, that pilot would have to eject. Dad spent almost a year in wind tunnels at NASA and the Air Force Academy figuring out how the flat spin occurred and how to get out of it. After he solved it, he traveled all over the world teaching F-106 pilots how to escape from the flat spin, and that technique is still being taught to pilots today. He became a legend in flight safety for the Air Force. Over about 15 years, Dad wrote 45 Coolstone stories for the Interceptor Magazine. We've compiled 36 of these stories into a book called Coolstone Takes Flight. What is truly amazing is that we have all of this content, and the stories are all true and they are all humorous. These stories can be made into several full-length movies, a Netflix series spanning several years, a graphic novel, a podcast, or any number of other possibilities. There are just so many venues where these stories can be utilized, and what is really great is that they are family friendly. They can be enjoyed by any pilot, former military folks, and anyone who enjoys a good funny story. With Coolstone, you can let your imagination take flight.
My name is James T. English, and I spent 28 years in the United States Air Force. I retired as a full colonel and then answered an ad that said, how would you like to be an editor at Interceptor Magazine? And they accepted me. So off I went down to Defense Command headquarters in Colorado Springs and spent the next several years doing the interceptor job. And of course, Roger Crewse was at Air Defense Command headquarters in the safety division, and that's how Roger and I met. He being the first interceptor editor, we developed a very close bond. When Roger Crewse comes to mind, the term that we all thought of Roger was Mr. Safety. He truly was safety focused in every sense. started really focusing on the various aspects of, the things that were occurring with some of our aircraft, particularly the F-102, with its difficulties, with the F-101, with its pitch-up problems, with the F-106, which had a tendency to stall and spin very quickly if you did the wrong thing. And I personally had an opportunity to use Roger's good advice on the F-106 because I got myself into trouble one night and came very close to doing exactly what Roger said could happen when you're pulling up and you put a little bit of aileron in, and sure enough, it was very close, but I remember what Roger said, so it saved me. Probably the thing that most appealed to me was the fact that Roger was not satisfied, never satisfied, with it being just pilot error. And he typified that with his article, Coolstone Convenes the Board, because that was so true. I mean, in that particular article, it demonstrated so well that pilots were generally the fall guy in any accident situation. What Roger said is, I'm not so sure about that. And he started looking at underlying causes. It could be command-related mismanagement. It could be maintenance, not doing what maintenance should be doing. Any number of different, what he called them second and third level causes. That's what really indicated to me that this man was definitely focused on safety. When I hear the term Coolstone, of course, I immediately think of Roger Crewse, because Roger Crewse was, in every sense of the word, Coolstone. The thing that, to me, set Roger apart and in his Coolstone persona was that he could tell a story so clearly and so accurately, and yet do it with such great humor. And that's what really set the Coolstone articles apart.
I'm Richard Henderson. I am retired from the U.S. Air Force, and knowing Roger Crewse, I kind of feel that I've walked in his footprints. Roger was a fighter pilot. I was a fighter pilot. Roger preceded me as the F-106 project officer at the Division of Aerospace Safety and Air Defense Command Headquarters. I had the same job after Roger did. Roger was the editor of the Interceptor. After Roger quit that, I was the editor of the Interceptor. Roger really originated the Interceptor Magazine as a flight safety publication for primarily pilots. Roger had one specific thing that he always wrote an article called Coolstone. Coolstone was dredged from Roger's memory of many events that he actually participated in, and then again, many other events that he just heard about. Roger loved to tell stories, and he was just very, very good at it. Roger was person who was easily liked, and that's because he liked everybody. Roger was comfortable with crass fighter pilots. He was comfortable with senior military officers. He was comfortable with royalty. When I think of Coolstone, I think of every fighter pilot war story that I've ever heard.
So what is it about Coolstone? Cool evokes calm, confidence, stylishness, and effortless charm. Stone conveys permanence, strength, natural power, and simplicity. Together, they create a perfect fusion of relaxed and rugged, something enduring yet approachable. Coolstone symbolizes emotional composure under pressure. A cool stone doesn't crack, overheat, or react. It could be a person, a code name, a line of jewelry, a whiskey, or even a philosophy. That versatility makes it feel naturally iconic. You've just met Roger Crewse and the unforgettable Coolstone. 45 hilarious stories from an Air Force legend. The stage is set for the next great aviation franchise. Join us now in bringing Coolstone to life.